Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving On podcast. I'm Jay Norman. This is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jess Norman. Babe, you sure you remember how to do this?
Oh, I bet we'll figure it out.
You want to start off by telling them our brand new name?
I'd love to. We want to welcome y'all to the brand new Moving On Again podcast.
And on with the show.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing so good.
You ready?
The real question is, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
Oh, I'm really sorry. We waited to the last minute to record, and he came home not feeling good. He gets sick about once a year.
Yeah, nothing too serious. I feel a little better now after I got home and sat down for a little while.
Well, nothing is too serious with Jay, except he doesn't do the whole man cold thing. Like if Jay has the flu, he's not going to stop or anything. He just keeps going. And so when he does stop, it lets me know this is it. This is it, folks. It places everyone.
I'm going to survive.
Yeah. Well, I just mean you mean it.
So, babe, we recorded 2 episodes.
Yes.
The Camino Cowboys.
Yes, with our buddies.
With our buddies. We had a great time.
We had such a fun time. It was such a fun way to return to the podcast.
Yeah, and it's been inspirational for all of us.
Yeah.
And I guess for the most for your sister.
My sister.
Yeah.
You all know about my sister Kimmer. We have talked about her from the first episode, and she's been a huge light in my life and mentor and big, perfect version of a big sister that you would ever want. I am who I am because of her, and she would say she's who she is because of me. So it's very, very mutual. I don't know how it started. I think she just expressed I think she had listened to that episode twice.
She did, yeah.
And I didn't remember her saying that about any of the other episodes, so I knew it meant a lot to her. And so...
Well, and also, once she listened, you put her on the thread.
Yeah, I put her on the thread with Jacob and Sean and Jay. And so the 5 of us could talk about the Camino, and she had listened to the episode, then immediately went and watched the movie The Way, and I think that decided it for her. It's been really, really neat because she's doing it. She's going. She has plans. She told my brother-in-law, Kevin, I'm going to go walk the Camino. I don't know what plans she has past that. I wish I could go.
Then she did buy a backpack.
I wish I could go with her. She told the boys she's putting 20-pound weights in her backpack, and I think they thought she was joking. They don't know my sister like we do, but they've loved getting to know her and stuff. And then yesterday she got on the thread and said she had signed up for training, and it's an actual app that you can, from the Camino, that you can follow along. And so she's serious. I know her. She's gonna do it, and I'm going to be her biggest cheerleader because I wish I could go, but I can't leave for that long. But maybe I can go meet up with her for a few days, but I will want to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to just go do a little part of it.
Well, and we need to watch that movie too.
We do. We do. I think I was talking to a friend this week about how in the world, just how charming our Lord is, that when Sean's grandmother was having a conversation with him, or what even sparked Sean to watch the movie all those years ago, then to mention it to his grandmother, and then for his grandma to say, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
How did she know she was talking to my sister? Because my sister that seed wouldn't have been planted without.
And hopefully a lot of other people we don't know about.
Yeah, we want to hear, though. We want to know
for sure.
We want to know if any of you reacted the same way. We'd love to hear your journey too, and hopefully Jay and I can, when the baby's 10, when he gets a little bit older, I bet we could talk about it.
Yep. See what time frame we can make work.
Yeah, what a dream. I'm so envious of her. She's going to do so good.
And she is. It's going to be fun to watch too. And she's entertaining.
Jay asked Sean and Jacob, how do y'all like my sister-in-law? He was so proud to show her to them, and
she's pretty swanky.
It's nice connecting our little worlds.
It is that. So we talked about the Camino Cowboys to bring up that we did rebrand the podcast.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Oh, I have to.
Yes. You're the rebrander. You go ahead.
This is the first time we're talking about it. We probably should have led with this, but we jumped right in with Jacob and Sean. Do you think we mentioned it a little bit on the very first episode?
Maybe, but it's gone a lot further since then.
Yeah, it has evolved into everything, which is how it always goes.
Sure.
When we were in Vegas, we told you guys that we saw our friends Rob and Emily Sharkey, and Rob asked us to record real quick to throw on the TV show. And he said, go ahead and tell them the name of your podcast. And Jay and I had only mentioned it to each other a few times about changing the name. And I don't know, something in me was like, go for it, Jess, go for it. And I just said, you know, we're moving on podcast, but we're rebranding to moving on again. I tell the world, I think Shark Farmer Television syndicates to the whole world, right?
I would think so. RFD does, I'm sure.
Me too. And so I told the whole world. So then it was like we had to change the name of the podcast. It was done.
No.
But I immediately kind of regretted it because I know there's a lot of work that goes into changing everything, changing the logo, changing the thumbnail, changing all of the technical stuff, you know, from the host site and
changing the picture,
the wording, the picture. We had wanted to change the picture because it was our engagement picture. So it was from 6 years ago, and we got real hot and skinny for our wedding. And I was like, baby, we don't even look like that anymore. I want a picture of how we look now. So Annie Shannon out of Dallas, Fort Worth, she took our engagements. She took our reception pictures. And we're keeping her forever. She came back and did our rebranding photos. We had an idea in mind from Bailey Creed Photography, is another dear friend of ours. And I asked Bailey if it was okay if we used one of her photos for inspiration. It was this gorgeous little bridal couple sitting in front of an old truck. And I asked Jay, do we have an old truck, like one of your grandpa's, or on his dad and uncle's farm? Is there a truck out there? And he said, no, but what about Sean's? And I was like, that's it. That means something to us.
Our Camino Cowboy came through again.
Our Camino Cowboy, Sean, that's his truck. If you'll see the new thumbnail and the new logo, that's Sean's truck that we're sitting in front of. And I just don't think it could have come out better. I don't remember if we talked about stopping in Oklahoma at our friend's place to spend the night after Cultivating Courage. Didn't you think we did?
Yes, that was Kansas.
Oh, in Kansas?
Yep.
Who knows where we were that night? That night was a blitz, huh?
Yeah.
But in the morning when Lily and Jay and I woke up to leave, we met all of the owners and the secretary, and we got to meet this lovely girl named Rachel that is their in-house graphic designer. And she and I just hit it off immediately and started talking and decided we would become brand new adult friends. Friends as adults are hard to make. And she's like, oh my gosh, can we be friends? I was like, yeah. And so anyways, I said, would you want to work on our logo? And we worked for a few days, and I kind of had decided I'm just not in a good space to figure this out. It wasn't going the right direction, and she was doing an awesome job. It just wasn't what was in my head. And then all of a sudden it was, and it just kept evolving, and Cam was helping, and Jay was helping, and Lily was helping me and Rachel go back and forth on it. And what we came up with is something I'm so proud of. I was so proud of our original logo. My niece did that logo. And so now to have this rebranded logo that I'm just so proud of, I can't believe it.
It's really nice. And
I love it.
Picture turned out really neat, and it wasn't terribly painful. So
no, you were on auction time.
No, I was.
What did you buy during our photo shoot?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But I was bidding, I seemed like. So, babe, we rebranded. We've got new thumbnails, new pictures, and the key word being in the rebranding is again. So explain where we're coming from on that.
I'm not really sure even where it stems from. I feel like it was a word that God really hid in our hearts to kind of uncover in the past month. And that's really, like he said a minute ago, that's really how it has evolved. It was like he gave us the word and then the meaning would come maybe. And I mean, of course we knew again meant, were we going to end the podcast after 5 seasons, or were we going to go again? Were we going to keep recording? Were we going to keep moving on? And so we definitely went back and forth on moving on part 2 or moving on some more or keep moving on. You know, we were doing play of words definitely. And for sure the word again just stuck, but I never liked it as much as I do today.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that doesn't really flow. I'm not sure if that's for us. Have we made a mistake? And today I'm like, that is exactly what our show is supposed to be called. I cannot wait for that big old chunky font word again to be all over our stuff, be on our shirts, our sweatshirts, and our cups. I'm just so thrilled.
And you always say, turning the page.
Yeah.
And you said that again the other day, turning the page again.
Yeah, it really symbolizes exactly, you know, what we've told you guys before, but when we sat down to decide to keep going or not, we were just so confused on exactly what to do. And we didn't want to get in the way. We didn't want to keep, you know, you don't ever want to stay too long or, you know, stay in a space too long. And that's what our podcast is about, is getting on pause, you know, and we didn't know whether to press play and go into a whole nother season of our life or press play and continue recording. And we trusted that our inclination to keep recording is right. And in the past month, I think I said the other day on one of my posts that this past month has been my favorite month of my life. We've had so much fun. We've had people up here recording with us. We've had so many people writing in to tell us that they loved the shows and that they related so much to all of them. Everything with Kimmer and training, and, you know, that's going to change her life. Yeah. And just seeing, like, I always say our God is so charming, and to see how charming our God is through our show makes me just in love with him. Yeah. I love it. So I feel like after a month, we probably would have been like, babe, what do you say, beating a dead horse or kicking a dead horse?
No, I say beating a dead horse.
Beating. I think after a month, we'd have been like, we made the wrong decision. We're beating a dead horse. And I have never felt more confident that we're heading down the right path, that I feel us picking up speed, and I'm just having so much fun.
You keep alluding to a certain movie every time we've talked about this, and I'm not even sure that I understand what it is. But
do I need to show it to you?
You've brought up several times about a Kurt Russell movie, and I may have seen it, but I'm just not following which one it is.
Really? Y'all can tell how much I've seen Jay in the past few days. We're planting corn. We didn't even tell him that. We're in corn plant, you guys.
Yeah, we had a soft start.
A soft launch.
Yeah, there you go.
We did get a whole bunch of rain, so we haven't been back in the field, but we are supposed to be planting corn. We're waiting for it to dry out to plant some more. But anyways, the movie that has played a huge role in my life and has been a huge inspiration in my life is called Miracle, and it's a film about the American hockey team. I can't remember what year it would have been. It would have been the 70s or 80s. I'll find out. And Kurt Russell is the coach. And there's this one amazing part. It gives me chills even talking about. Do you remember it now?
I think so, yeah.
You do?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. But
I've even shown it to you on YouTube.
Yeah.
But let's watch it again if you want to. We could just watch the whole movie. Okay, so y'all's homework is to watch The Way. And then after The Way, you have to watch Miracle with Kurt Russell. But
that's our homework, too.
So they try to combine this entire team, but they're all from all different teams, they're all from all different states, huge egos, and he can't mesh them. And so they play this horrific game. It's so bad. They lose their butts, and they're all mad at each other. They're not playing as a team. They're just playing, for themselves and trying to show off for themselves. And, that's not going to get you anywhere. So he keeps them after a game and puts them on the line, which is funny because I grew up playing basketball and we'd have to get on the line. I had no idea ice skaters got on the line, but he puts them on the line. And he makes them start doing sprints. And he'll stop them for a second and he'll say, "Who do you play for?" And one of the guys will say, "I play for South Dakota," or whoever their local team is. And he'll blow his whistle and he'll say, "Again." And they're dead. They've already played an entire game and now they've done all these sprints and the music is getting more intense and he just keeps blowing his whistle and yelling again. And if y'all love Kurt Russell as much as I do, you can envision it. It's just so good. And they are dead. Even the other coaches are asking him to stop. Like, please let him go home. This is enough. This is getting bad. And it stops for a minute and you think he's going to let him go and he blows that whistle and he says, "Again." And so it finally gets to he stops them and he says, "Who do you play for?" And I just could start bawling my eyes out right now. The player stands up and he yells out something along the lines of, "I play for the United States of America." And he lets him, he says, "Good night, boys," or, lets him go. And anytime I got in one of those cyclical things in my life, that movie always came to mind. And I just kept thinking, until I get this right, God's going to keep giving me a chance to do it. And that's the most sugar-coated way to say what we go through.
Well, we've talked about it. That's what he's done for our whole marriage and for our family and everything we've done. He's done for this podcast.
Yep, for sure. So I just thought it was a great way. I don't know if you feel this way, babe, but we've kind of changed seasons, and so we're meeting new folks and new people and new friends, and they're like, "What's your podcast called?" And you almost cringe because you're like, they're going to start at episode 1. It is 6 full years ago. That's not us anymore. Just like no one listening is the same as they were 6 years ago. And so we want to be proud that that's still there and ready for you to listen to, but we want there to be a marker of, just like you said, the turning of the page and us figuring out a way to hold loosely to these things that we've felt so passionately about our whole lives and these things that we've valued. We want to hold loosely to them because we're all really just walking around making sure respectfully that we're the main character of our lives. No. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do all at the same time.
It really is, and I've said it on here before, and I may have said it the last time, but excuse me,
he's not feeling good, you guys.
It's just this wonder, from where we came from, how I felt we were, not necessarily wrong about everything, but we definitely didn't have it right. No. And I just wonder, what we think we have right now, what's wrong with that? And,
You've said that before.
And what our change is going to be
You've
moving
said that
forward.
Well, you think back on those cringe moments that bite you when you're driving down the road, or I don't know if you guys do this, but we have moments as women in our lives as mama moments or friend moments, or just that make us cringe to think, I said that, or I did that, or moments that torment us. And they didn't torment us in the moment. They just torment us down the line looking back. So there's a lot of times where I'm walking through my life and I'm like, is this a moment that I won't like to look back on?
Well, and I'm saying it too, even from a standpoint of just listening to our podcast, like, when we originally started and I turn it on the truck and I'm driving down the road, I'm almost cringing.
Babe, I won't even listen
to myself. And so, you just, but you just have to keep doing it. And
well, sure. Well, I think that's what our very first episode was, just asking for grace on all of that stuff and the intention that we were just trying to help. So,
yeah. Well, and I mean, and it does fit us in so many places. How many times that we've had to redo how we deal with the kids, how we deal
Yeah.
with our exes.
Oh,
How many
gosh.
times we've gone back to
Oh,
the drawing
gosh.
board
Yeah.
to try to figure that out. And I guess really we're still standing at it.
I think that is why our pastor, John, he coined the phrase, not coined it, but he spoke it over us to hold loosely. And I think that is why I fell in love with that phrase so much, because I feel like if we hold loosely and not, what does he say when you value being right more than you value kindness, you lose all influence.
No.
And so I don't ever, just like you say, we're grown enough and we're old enough to know that the things we feel very strongly about could be very different in a few years as he's learning us. And that's really one of the points we wanted to talk about is, as a culture, we think we have definite grace in our teens, a lot of grace in our 20s. I think it's different now for the 30s. There's even grace that has definitely flowed into the 30s. But I think there's a lot of us, because Jay are in our 40s and 50s, that I think we think we're supposed to have it figured out by our 40s and 50s.
No.
And that's just not true. And God tells us that he began a good work in us, and he's going to continue that good work for the rest of our lives.
No.
And so for us to feel like in our 40s and 50s to shame ourselves, like I should know better. I've been through this situation. I should know better. And that's just not true. When we're in our 80s and 90s, we're going to be working through some things then too. And just the grace for, instead of taking these moments to shame yourself and come down hard on yourself that you should know already, go again. Just go again. Like save the energy and keep going. What else are you going to do?
Well, we've seen it in our own parents.
Yes.
Up in those 70s and 80s, and changes they've made and what they've had to do to keep moving forward.
Oh my gosh, my mom and dad became an entirely different mom and dad this past year, and they're 73. So to watch my parents evolve as parents and tell us they're sorry for things and change the way that they do things. I mean, I think we kind of would say people get set in their ways, and we have not seen that.
No.
We've not seen that in our parents.
Well, that's a big deal for us personally, because I was
huge.
pretty set in my ways, and you and I had to work through a lot to get that figured out for sure.
And I know that we're married to each other because I feel like you and I are the only people that can affect change onto you and I. I don't think anyone besides you could have come in and helped me to get further down the road that I wanted to go. And, that is why 6 years ago me is not me, because you and I had just become one.
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine what another 6 years of you and me locking horns and loving on each other and locking horns again. I mean, what's that going to look like? I'm excited about it. Because there are so many ways that I used to parent, so many ways that something would trigger me or get all over me, that is just not that way anymore.
No.
We've flexed these emotional muscles over and over and over, and essentially throwing us into this painful, tough blended family situation was like throwing us into a boiling pot. And we were going to figure out a way to survive or just let it overtake us.
Well, another big part of that is, we've talked about on here a lot, is the generational stuff that we want to stop from moving to the next generation. And we found out the same thing there. There's just, when we kind of feel like maybe we've helped one deal, I mean, the next thing just shows up, and it's just never ending. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying it's constant work.
It's in us. It is absolutely in our DNA, and it's there for a point. I mean, some of the stuff needs to stay there because it's been learned for a good reason. And when we talk about generational stuff, I know some people have a hard time talking about generational stuff because they feel like they're saying their mom's not a good mom or their dad's not a good dad. We're not talking about your mom and dad. We're not talking about your grandparents. We're not talking about your great grandparents. I mean, we're going all the way back.
No.
These things have been developed over 100, 200, 300 years. And so let that go. Don't feel like you're going to offend family members by trying to improve on your mental and emotional health. We're talking about things that were developed a lot. This is way bigger than that.
Right. Yeah, they had influences they didn't even know they were.
Oh, sure.
They were getting.
Oh, sure. And just think of the improvement that we've made from my mom and dad, and think of the improvement that my mom and dad made from my grandparents, and so on and so on. And so you can see where that growth was made each generation, hopefully, in a great family.
Well, and you posted on Instagram, and I know we've got it on the notes here, something that your dad said to you.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you were going through a rough time.
Yeah, we had just gotten divorced. Dusty and I had just gotten divorced. My mom and dad had come in town. They always come in town when they change from their Louisiana home to the Colorado home. And they had stopped in to see me and the kids. And it was just really uncomfortable the first time in 12, 14 years that Dust wasn't going to see them. And my mom figured out what was going on. And she said, Jess, get him over here. We're not ever going to be mean to him, nothing. Just get him over. And so I called him and I said, they want you to come over. And so he came and sat on the couch. And I think I sat on the floor and my mom and dad were in the chairs. And we talked for about an hour or two. And then it was time for Dust. The kids were with me, of course, because my parents were in. And so it's time for Dust to go. And my dad and I walked him out. And I remember Dusty driving his truck away. It was the most desperate time of my whole life. And he turned me. He put a hand on each shoulder. I'm not sure he would even remember doing this, but I do. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. And he put a hand on each shoulder and he said, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't turn back. Keep moving forward. No. And the first part of it, keep doing exactly what you're doing, made such a huge impact on my confidence because I really worried about what he thought about me. And I really thought, you guys know from other episodes, I thought he was going to disown me after the divorce. And so for him not to disown me and then look in my eyes and say, you're doing really good. Yeah. This is the best possible scenario. Keep going. Keep going.
And not to overstate it, but how many times have you turned to that again and again, as we've gone through everything we've gone through?
In the hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the hundreds. So he spoke that truth over me. I know that is some of the best advice I could pass on to you guys is just no matter what, just keep moving forward. And that's where moving on came from.
That's right. So that's where the name of our podcast came from. We moved on. We're moving on again. And we moved on far enough now that we've had our first Q&A.
After 6 years.
Yeah. And so
I always thought those were cringe. I didn't like when people did them.
I'm still pretty nervous about it, to be honest.
You are?
Yeah, because
but they have final editing. I can edit whatever you say.
You wrote these questions down, and I'm not sure how to take them in the order that you wrote. But you wrote the first question is sex, and I don't know if that's a good thing for me or not.
I'm just writing it.
And the second one was my cup.
Uh-huh. Clean, that's clean.
And the third one was about how we met.
Okay.
The next one was our main tug of war. I don't know if we have a main tug of war.
Yeah.
And what about me attracted you the most. So since you
I
wrote
love
that one
that
at the
one.
top, I'm going to let you start
Babe,
with
I was
what
just
you want to
going through my
address.
thoughts. I had to, my phone that I took the screenshots of the questions on died, and while I was in Durango, so I had to think of them from memory, and that's what
So let's address the easy one first. Let's address the cup.
yeah,
And
where did the cup,
maybe we'll run out of tape before we get to that
babe?
first one.
Okay, how did the cup come to be?
Well, I'm just really addicted to having something to drink. I'm a really
Yes.
thirsty person. Like if somebody drinks one glass at a meal, I'll drink 10. So I like to have something to
He's
drink.
not joking, you guys.
And I got really addicted to sweet tea and then kind of unsweet tea. And then I switched to Diet Coke. And so started going in the stores all the time and had a Diet Coke, a cup from wherever I was getting it. And I carried that cup with me all the time. And our friend Lee is really the first person to point it out
Yes.
on
She
Instagram.
always does.
And it
Lee
kind of
Mahler.
became a thing after that, and so we just thought we would put it in the picture since it was a little bit.
Well, do you know who always had a cup of Diet Coke just like yours my whole life?
Who's that?
Kimmer.
Yep.
Yep. We always had to stop at the store and get Kimmer a big Diet Coke. She always had one.
Gotta be ready.
So what are the chances that y'all have that in common?
And it's it's something I carry them in my truck. I always have one or two in my truck, and usually I have them at home at night, and I leave with them in the morning, and they're with me all day.
I think people's main question was, is it the same cup?
It is until it starts leaking, and then I go to something else,
Oh,
or I break
baby.
it. So, but I always have a backup, so no worries.
I don't like that answer.
It was better than drinking out of a Yeti for a month and not
Yeah, that's
washing
right.
it, so it probably is a little better
That's
thing.
right. That's right.
All right, so the next question,
Okay.
our main tug of war, what would you say?
Our main tug of war, I would think, would be the kids.
Yep.
And what's popping into your head?
I think
Oh, I know one.
if you go back to the first 6 years,
Uh-huh.
or however long, I guess it's coming up on 6, or just got 6,
We
sorry.
just had
yeah.
6.
And I think you would label that one as the kids. What are you thinking after that?
Had you not thought of something else?
Kind of, sort of, but you go.
Okay. Mine is going to be that, and I think we've definitely mentioned it several times on here, but you are such a mogul to me. Like you are such a powerhouse to me. And so sometimes I get a little embarrassed that I don't have a job that brings in income.
Yeah.
Even though I don't sit down and I wear a bunch of different hats and I serve a lot of different roles in our life, I get a little embarrassed that I'm not probably like the CEO of some amazing company bringing in 6 figures like I thought I would. That embarrasses me a little bit. And whenever you ask like why your jeans aren't clean, which you've never done that after the first time, or what's for dinner, or any of the 1920s housewife questions that I get from him triggers the, oh, you think we're not equal. And so that's gotten a lot better as the trust has built a lot more. But it just stems from absolute insecurity.
Yeah. Well, and along that same line, mine would have been is when I'm in that work mindset or I've got a lot on my mind.
And you look right through my forehead.
And you can't get to me. That is a big tug of war for
when
us.
I can't get to you, it really bothers me. Yeah.
And I don't even know I'm doing it most of the time. I'm just thinking about what I'm thinking about. And
I'm very aware when Jay's eyes are different or when his tone is different. And my kids have that superpower also. And so when he changes his eyes towards me or he changes the way he's speaking to me, it makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Next question.
What is it?
How'd we meet?
How'd we meet? We were in my boot camp. I ran boot camps in a couple different spots in our tiny little town, just in the local gym parking lot or the school parking lot. You were in one of my boot camps. I got to kick your tail
That you did.
weekly for a really long time.
Really early in the morning.
Yeah, Jay, you could tell Jay, I had never known anything like him ever. You could tell Jay, all right, we're going to do 4 reps of scaling this wall, and then I want you to jump from the roof down onto this. And he wouldn't have ever even picked his head up or said, like, we can't do that. He would have just went and tried to figure it out. I could come up with the most wild workouts, and he just would put that baseball cap down or turn it around and go to work. I never heard a word out of him during the workout.
And for me, it was that you were what I would call a deep digger. Like, you just locked on, and you could tell when you spoke to me that you were interested
nice.
in who I was and what I was about, more than just plain run of the mill stuff.
Yeah, I don't do small talk.
She does not.
That's really sweet of you to say that. You've never said that to me.
No.
Thanks, babe. That's really nice.
No.
I just don't think we have enough time here on this earth for small talk.
No, you don't. You don't believe in any of it, and you've made me into a person that doesn't like a whole lot of it either.
When Jay does small talk, it makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
That's another tug of war.
That's another. I hate it because he's a farmer, so he'll see like a husband and wife. He'll be like, don't you make him work too hard. And I just want to scream. And he'll look back at me and then he'll be like, what? I'm like, I can't. Like, couldn't you have just thought of a real sentence to say? Like, you missed out on an entire encounter. What's the next question? We got to get you to bed.
The next question is what about Jay attracted you the most?
Gosh, because if I could have drawn you when I was, 13, 14, I would have drawn you. You're exactly who I wanted. You're who turned my head for 15, 20 years. You're who I would look at if we'd go to the rodeos or go to town and there was boots and a cowboy hat or boots and pearl snaps or starch. I mean, I just was absolutely enamored. And from the moment we got together, I've never had to turn my head because you're right by me. Like, you're exactly who I would pick if I had to pick again.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it was a lot about notwithstanding, how beautiful you are, but what I said a while ago is that you could tell that you were a person that was really interested and really loving, and then another one would be really funny.
Thanks, honey.
So
that's really nice. Sometimes you say I'm a smart ass.
You're a whole lot of smart ass. A deep digging smart ass.
Our pastor read scripture. Do y'all know the scripture where Jesus is like, where's your husband? And she says, I don't have a husband. And he's like, you're exactly right. You've had 4 husbands, and this man you're living with, you're not married on. And I wrote in my journal, see, he was a smart ass just like me.
She sure did and showed it to me. So is that all the questions?
Yes.
I don't know, but we got to turn the fan on a little bit.
What is happening? I thought it was really invigorating for the person to send this one in.
Invigorating word to go right along with it.
How are you going to navigate this one?
I don't know.
Well, that was the exact question. How do you guys navigate your sex lives? So I guess if you have like kids, you can turn us off now. But I mean, we'll be fine. But I'm just saying, maybe turn us off now.
No, I'm not sure what the answer to navigating that is. So,
well, I think where I would just like to start is that's just not an issue for us. I heard a couple of things along the way. Well, first of all, we're in our second marriage, so we don't want to do anything. We've already failed at marriage, and so we don't want to do anything that would cause us to fail this marriage.
No.
So there's a lot of things that we can recognize that we did incorrectly, and we just don't want to do that now. So we in this department, we for sure lived and learned.
Yeah.
And our main thing is communication. And so we just figured out just like the deep talking and the deep thinking and the way you and I are with each other, we and, you know, I always say I want this to be like a safe space. Our marriage is a safe space, and our marriage bed for sure is a safe space. And so we got to a spot real quickly that we could say or do whatever we wanted, and it would be received. It wouldn't be, how would you say, like judged or shock and all, or you know, it's just a real it's just a really safe space. And along the way I heard two things. One, when your husband wants to be with you that way, just say yes. Just do it. Do not ever reject him. What is it going to take? You know, it doesn't take that much to just always say yes. And then I heard another person say that, you know, because I think a lot of times it's more common for the woman to say, like, I'm too tired, or not tonight, or I have a headache. And
that's every commercial.
Every commercial is seeing that. And I heard the other day that the reason that is so hard on y'all is because saying no to it is not even in your playbook.
Yeah.
So for it to be in ours must mean that we detest you, or that. And so since I know that that's not what it means for me, I definitely just didn't want that to be what you thought it meant. And so I combined those two principles and decided anytime you wanted to, we would. And I realized there were times along the way, you know, because we've gone through seasons of, you know, the miscarriage and things like that, and mental depression and things like that, to where there probably was a lot of times that I was not great with that. And I soon realized that you were not initiating as much. I was the one that was having to initiate. And I don't want that from my guy. I want to be completely wanted and sought after. And so I think for me, that's the main thing that pops into my head is I try to always be ready to party. And it's easy for me because you're you. You're what I've always wanted.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it goes back to, we've talked about on here, and we talked about earlier, is just accountability too, and being there for each other, whatever the situation is, or whatever the timing is, and you know, just one of those things where, you know, even if it's not your day, you know, you got to make it your day and sacrifice a little bit, because ultimately you get that paid back big, you know. Yeah,
for sure. Yep. So I guess that's how we would navigate it, is just with respect and love. And, you know, they say, like, whatever friend you're wanting, that's the friend that you need to be. And so for us, it's whatever we're wanting from each other in that department, that's what we show up with.
As the song said, the rose go.
I'm trying to think.
Oh, okay. I thought we were ending.
I was trying to think of the sweet way to say it.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do I need to? Babe, I love you.
And I love you too.
Okay. Do you think we did good?
I think we got by anyway.
I'm going to put you to bed.
All right. As the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too.